all I got is home is where the heart is. Welcome to After the Hype. I'm your host, as always, Bryan Dressel. It's like the most lackluster opening ever.
House is where the heart is.
House is where the heart was before it was digested. Welcome to After the Hype again. I like that one slightly better. Me, your host, always, Bryan Dressel. With me, as always, is Jonathan Odyssey.
Yep.
And Chewie Darso.
Bananas!
Don't take my quote. My quote is definitely not bananas, 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 bananas. Oh boy. Today, we are talking in our, I can count, 4th week of Halloween movies. Yes, 4th, because the 5th week, magically, Halloween ends on a Thursday. Tune in next week, yada, yada, yada. We'll get there eventually. 4th week of Halloween movies, where this time, Chewie picked again, because I said anyone from the ATH network could pick a movie, and she was the first to reply. So you picked...
House!
From
1977 Japan.
Woof! And this is a movie. Have you not seen this movie? I'm going to strongly encourage you to do what every podcast host should not do. Stop listening. Stop now and go watch it. Because we're going to ruin everything. And if you can go in as blind as I did, you'll be giving yourself a treat.
It is bonkers.
It's bananas. It is...
B-A-N-A-N-A-N.
It is a whole pile of bananas that used to be a man. Like, it is as bananas could be.
It always makes me want to eat noodles real bad when they're all eating the noodle. And there's that bear in the noodle shop.
Why wouldn't there be a bear in the noodle shop?
Right.
My God. So if that's not enough to pique your interest, if you haven't seen this movie and you're going to stop listening now and go watch it and come back, I don't know what else I can do for you.
You don't even have to stop it. You can just hit pause. Most players have a pause button. That way, we're still with you while you're watching this and experiencing this.
We'll be there in spirit. Just along for the ride. What a ride it is. But we'll get there eventually, because first, we have to do a Where Have You Been Doing? And I'll go first. And if you also listen to our show, Venture Bros, which I, of course, encourage you to do so, you have heard me already talk about this. I have been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which famously co-host of Venture Bros podcast, Nick, helped record the dialogue for. And whenever I would talk to him about it, he's like, yeah, it's good. If you like this sort of thing, it's good. Play it if you want. And he undersold the fuck out of it. The game is just... It's perfect. Like, for exactly what this game wants to be. Perfect's a strong word, probably, but it's fantastic. I enjoy the hell out of it.
Games, you might like this, maybe. It's like,
yeah,
okay.
That's the Nick Friedman pitch. And I'll tell you, if you like RPGs at all, and if you've ever enjoyed an Assassin's Creed game, this thing, like, just marries the two perfectly. Like, all the ideas that were there in Origins are fleshed out and perfected in this game, and it's a blast, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. And instead of rambling on and on and on, I'll just stop myself there and just say huge recommendation.
He loves the game.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Vouch for that.
Whew.
All right.
It fucks with my sleep. I'd rather stay up and play it. Like, it's a problem. But yeah, it's great. Great.
You guys, you and Nick need to do a pitch show together where he underpitches it and you overpitch it. Call it over-under.
Yeah, that would be... I'm not sure what that would be, but I would definitely be into it. John, what about you? Where have you been doing?
I meant to mention this a while ago, but I just forgot because of all busyness and all that sort of thing. But I watched both seasons of Fleabag on Amazon, and I really enjoyed it. It was not what I was expecting at all.
I have no idea what Fleabag is. I've heard the name.
I've had people recommend it, but I don't know anything.
It's a British show. This lady goes about her day with her dysfunctional family. She runs a cafe, but she's able to engage with the audience, so she looks at the camera and comments on it and breaks the fourth wall a lot. And it's very interesting and very well done and has a very fun writing style. The voice is really strong. And I watched through it really fast. I wasn't expecting to get through the show as quickly as I did, but it was really good. And everyone talks about on that show the Hot Priest, which is the guy who played Moriarty in the Sherlock series from Stephen Moffat. And yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good.
He's attractive.
Yeah, he's
got that kind of menacing, doe-eyed look.
Okay, I could see that, I guess.
Yeah, there's
just
that
makes
thing.
you be like, oh, he's mysterious.
When I saw who the actor was, I was like, oh, that guy. Okay, yeah, I get it. I get why people are freaking out about him. And yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. I really enjoyed it, and it's not a very long watch commitment, so.
All right, Chewie, what about you?
Well, what am I going to talk about? I'm slowly watching Blade Trinity. It's awful. It's just woof.
How long is it taking you to watch this thing?
Kid, can only do it in like 15 minutes at a time. This is not good Ryan Reynolds. It's not good Wesley Snipes. It is pre lip injections Jessica Biel, which is nice. Definitely pre Jessica Biel saying, well, I need to hear both sides of the story from anti-vaxxers, Jessica Biel. But honestly, let's think about the trailer for Dolittle.
Oh, God.
With starring Iron Man. That trailer.
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone's seen it.
No.
I only briefly heard things about how people did not have fun making it. But that trailer...
It's awful.
I know it's supposed to instill a certain amount of whimsy to me. But I'm sitting there the whole time going, what the frick is this movie about?
He can talk to the animals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But where is he going? What is this adventure? What?
He's gonna go find pie.
Well, he does see a tiger.
That's the only thing I got.
Hello, lunch. And it just the part when they're being bombarded by... They're on a ship and they're being attacked with cannons. And the gorilla is distraught. And then Robert Downey, Iron Man, just kind of tilts his head to the side and says, it's okay to be scared or frightened or whatever the frick he says.
Yeah.
And I'm like, everyone's scared. You're being attacked. This is not a time to...
This is the perfect time to panic.
Yeah. It just looks confusing. Like, the part of me wants to see it more because of how confusing it looks. It looks like a hot mess.
Yeah, and then I love the last part of the trailer. Like, the very end of the trailer, I think, is just beautiful. When it just goes, coming in January. And it's like, oh! So even you know it's bad. Cool, got it.
But it looks like they spent so much money on it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe they spent a lot of the money on those bits that you saw in the trailer, and the rest is just pixelated.
And I'm also curious as to
puppets.
When the one animal says, all right, everybody, pack your bags, we're going on a trip. And all the other animals clap their hands. I'm like, what bags do you have?
Oh, it's sort of like the meats back on the menu, boys, for Lord of the Rings.
I don't know.
Oh, that's a good one, though.
But I was like, you're animals. You don't wear clothes. What do you need to pack? Food? Just food?
Yeah. It looks terrible. And
you don't need toiletries.
It looks terrible. It looks so bad. Hey, let's talk about House.
Another thing.
Great
with,
segue.
Crazy moments.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the best segue I'm going to possibly get. And you know what? For this movie, it works. Because, hey, let's do this now.
And
okay. And this, and this. And let's talk about the hottest guy in all the world, Mr. Togo.
Yes.
Yeah. The hottest dude.
He was a hippie.
So manly, just dripping with manliness.
He was a hippie.
The dude's a frumpy looking ugly dude.
He's a professor. He's a hippie.
He's ugly. He's an ugly pile of bananas. There, I've gotten all my complaints of the movie really out of the way. Ugly pile of bananas.
But one of the things...
Well, before we go way too into it, we do need to do a breakdown.
Before we get way too into it, we've jumped all across the timeline there.
Well, I could tell that Chewie was about to jump into a point, and I wanted to stop that before we got, way out of hand and start talking about pianos eating people and paintings of cat throwing up so much blood that an entire house fills up like a pool. I figured Chewie, since she picked the movie, would love to tell us a quick breakdown of what happens in the movie.
All right. Well, we start the movie with two girls, Fantasy and Gorgeous, and they are best friends.
Friends together.
Fantasy's gonna go to this training camp with the rest of their friends, but that gets canceled. And Gorgeous was supposed to do something with her dad, but it turns out her dad's shacking up with this new lady, and she's mad about it. Even though her mom's been dead for 9 years, so I think her dad has been patient. Really, he deserves, some love.
Doesn't everyone deserve to be happy?
And he's essentially fallen in love with just a floating nymph woman who is followed by a fan forever. She's forever blowing in the wind. And
she's just a scarf in the wind.
Yeah. And to be angsty and rebel against her dad, she decides to take all of her friends to visit her aunt. Super rebellious.
Yeah. I'll show you. I'll go visit family.
The best possible rebellion ever.
So they all go. They hop on a train. You learn some backstory about her aunt. It turns out her aunt really wanted to get married to this one dude that looks like he died in a kamikaze plane in World War II, and she's super bummed about it. So then they get there, they see her aunt, she's in a wheelchair, and she's kind of creepy. And then they get in the house, and the house is kind of creepy. And they make dinner, they take some baths, and then one of the girls disappears. And then turns out she's dead. Poor little Fantasy is the only one that really has an idea what's going on. No one really takes her seriously at first.
She almost makes it.
She almost makes it. And then the house starts eating people. It turns out that the aunt died a long time ago and is now haunting as a angry spirit who can only wear her wedding gown after she's eaten unmarried girls, younger girls. So she just, she starts eating the girls, including her niece, Gorgeous. She kind of just takes over her body.
We'll get to that one because that's my biggest question with the movie. With the movie full of questions, that's my biggest question. But we'll get there.
But yeah, at the end, they all die. And Mr. Togo, who is the professor who's kind of like in a relationship with Fantasy, maybe, or it's just a fantasy for Fantasy. He was trying to get to the house, but then he turns into a pile of bananas.
Well, he couldn't find the house because he wasn't officially invited to the house. So the house would never show up to him, is what the watermelon dude was saying.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were never invited, so you can't go.
Because there's that whole shot where
Do you like watermelons?
The floaty woman is walking towards the house, and you can see the camera turn it in the background behind the mat.
Is that inviting thing a real thing? Because neither was the girlfriend. She
I guess that's
gets
true.
there at the end.
But I don't know, but I remember hearing that line, so maybe? I've only seen, if you haven't been listening to our Halloween month so far, I've never seen anything from this movie beyond the box art. I didn't know anything else beyond that.
There's a cat in the movie.
There's an evil fucking weird ass cat in the movie that can flash green eyes and then you die. Most of the time.
Or it just breaks your camera.
Or it breaks your camera. Oh, man. So, where to start with house? I'll start.
Well, we start with the group of girls.
Yeah, I was gonna say either start with the group of girls or start with what the overarching thing of why people love the movie and what it had to say. But let's start with the girls because that's really the easiest place to start. I think there's a bunch of girls in the movie, and then there's very few that are actually somewhat memorable. There's Mac because she's the first one who dies, who's
supposed to be fat. She just looks healthy.
Yeah, she even says, "I'm just healthy," and they're like, "Fatso," and it's like, no, she just looks healthy. Shut up.
I would love to be as fat as she is if I just kept eating all the time.
Right? Well, great. If all you're eating all the time is watermelon, you're really not overeating too bad.
No.
So there's Mac, and then obviously Fantasy and Gorgeous because they're the two who open the movie, and then Kung Fu. And that's really the end of
and then there's Sweet and Melody.
Yeah, Sweet and Melody and Prof. But they're all there. But the other ones just kind of some of them feel like red shirts. Some of them feel like characters.
Oh,
Right,
Sweet
exactly.
and Melody are total red shirts.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that's what I mean. It's like Melody's
I
there to
think
play.
Melody
the piano
even
and
wears like
eventually
a
get
red
eaten by it.
dress too.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I honestly don't remember. Cards on the Table. I did not particularly love this movie when I watched it. It is a movie that I watch and go, if I was in a different mood, I bet I'd love the hell out of it. But right now, I just kind of want to stop it. I just want it to stop. Just stop assaulting me, movie. Because it really does just assault you the whole way through.
One of the reasons that this movie is an assault, and I think is one of the reasons why I enjoy it, is it does a thing that is a thing for me that I guess is when a director or a screenwriter co-writes this by talking to a child.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was going to talk about later with the whole, like, what does it all mean?
Okay.
But no, I think you're right. But back to the girls. So the red shirts that I don't really need to focus a lot of time on, but then we'll kind of like work our way through the other ones. Starting, of course, I think with Kung Fu. I really liked Kung Fu. I thought she was kind of a ridiculously fun character. She's probably
very assertive.
Yeah, she's probably my favorite person in the movie just because she is so assertive. She's kind of crazy. She just knocks down doors by like leaping kicks all the time.
She
Like,
has she has the best like soundtrack fanfare, and her
yeah.
action bits are the funniest and the most fun.
I honestly, the funniest bit to me in the entire movie is when Mr. Togo gets a bucket stuck on his ass and he scoots around like in and out of traffic.
No, it's stuck.
It's stuck. And it's like, what the fuck is happening? But otherwise, yes, I agree. Kung Fu probably has the funniest bits, and I just like the door's locked. Hi-ya! And she breaks down the door. And it's like, this is just great.
The musical stinger that she gets is just my absolute favorite in that movie, and every time it pops in, it was just great.
Oh yeah. All the music throughout is pretty fantastic. I'm not a big fan of like the main theme, not because it was creepy, just because it didn't really grab me. And whenever it started up again, like meh. But the rest of it I really liked. But what Chewie was saying, like all the girls are very much caricatures of their nicknames.
Yeah.
Like and it feels like one of those chicken and egg situations. Like, were you into Kung Fu before you're called Kung Fu, or are you into Kung Fu because you're called Kung Fu?
I assume she was into Kung Fu first because they called Mac because of her stomach.
Which does make sense to me. There might be a language thing there.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, like I like the nicknames, but they're all just kind of like, you know exactly who they are on their name alone.
Yeah.
With the exception of Gorgeous and Fantasy, in my opinion.
Well, Gorgeous is all about like her appearance. She's always putting on makeup. Fantasy just has fantasies. Like she has a fantasy about Togo coming on a horse to save her.
Oh, I guess that's true. No,
And Sweet is so sweet she's willing to clean the whole house by herself. And Melody wants to play the piano, and Prof is always talking about reason and reading
she's
a
got her
book and
glasses.
science. She can't see
those
anything
nerdy
without her
glasses.
glasses.
yeah.
And yeah, Mac's always eating because she's fat or whatever.
Oh, but we don't see her eat that much because she dies so quick. Although she does try to eat Fantasy's ass.
She does, and then she says it's tasty.
Yep.
There is no character named Tasty.
That is, well, true.
I mean, maybe there was in the prequel to this, and they just didn't make it because they were so tasty.
The House, the prequel, just building foundation.
Foundation.
So we talked about all of them, right? Yeah.
We might have missed one.
No.
No, that's all of them.
Kung Fu, Melody, Sweet, Prof, Fantasy, Gorgeous.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
6 girls.
Yeah.
And
But
then,
the one thing that I will say about all of them that I really do enjoy is that even with they're very obviously caricatures, they're very none of them are trying too hard to be like 3-dimensional characters. Like that's not even like a thing they were going for. But even with that in mind, I buy their friendship.
yeah.
Like it
movie
never
really
rings false.
I feel
The
like
movie
they would
really
hang
sets
out
up
with
their
Ninja
friendship
Turtles.
early, and for a while actually. We get a lot of time with them in the beginning before shit gets weird.
Yeah.
Bryan even asked, "This is a horror movie, right?"
Yeah.
I'm like, it'll get there.
It's so slapsticky in the beginning and throughout, but it takes a while to get to the house. So long and so that I'm like, this does I'm not expecting it to scare me by any stretch, but it is horror, right? And we get there and it is horror. It is definitely horror. House eats people. Rather violently in some cases. Specifically, poor Melody.
Oh, she got eaten.
Yeah. she didn't really get eaten so much as just kind of like chopped up.
Yeah, she was eviscerated by a piano, and then all her body parts were just chucked around the room, and
except for the fingers, which just kept playing the piano.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, that's pretty talented.
Yeah, good for her.
When I read the brief thing that I read about the production of this film, the reason that the piano eats melody is because it was one of the writer-director's daughter's fears, was getting her fingers stuck between the keys of a piano when she was being taught how to play.
The writer's daughter's an idiot.
Well, that's not nice. She probably had really tiny fingers.
Wow.
How tiny?
But that was the whole point. The kids have irrational fears. So a lot of irrational things happen in this movie.
No.
Like when
a man turns into a pile of bananas, unmotivated at all.
I mean, that makes sense.
He runs away from the watermelon man going, bananas, 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 bananas. I don't want to take my quote again.
I'm sure it's a cultural thing.
I'm sure, yeah.
Or a reference.
I mean, there is a lot of that in this. Like, this is very much a very Japanese film. So,
yeah.
there are a lot of things that will tend to go over a lot of Americans' heads. But it also has been around since the 70s. So I'm sure people figured this thing out time and time again. But
I mean, it's in the Criterion Collection.
Exactly.
John owned it.
He
and
didn't
he
know
never
it. Oh no, I still own it. I definitely kept it.
owns it.
Have you opened it?
Yes, open to watch it.
Did Jandy watch it with you?
For a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
She didn't stay?
Well, we got bedtimes, and some of us are more tired than others.
So if we're thinking about the ones who might have made it, and if it's like before we move on to other things, if Kung Fu is one who might have made it because she was the badass, also kind of makes sense that the house kind of has to kill her because she's really the only challenge for the house. Was it the house or is it the aunt? I really can't tell.
It's both.
Okay.
Her spirit, she's a poltergeist, essentially.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
I'd rather start with Gorgeous because Fantasy, I think, is a more well-rounded character. They're about the same. But Gorgeous, I just had to get out of my head. I don't understand when she died.
She died when the mirror essentially consumed her soul.
So she didn't really, like compared to the other girls who all, like, you legitimately see die, she didn't really die so much as she was just more absorbed into the house.
Her essence. Because you see when she goes into the room, she starts looking at her aunt's stuff. She starts putting on her aunt's makeup. And then her reflection starts to switch between her and her aunt. And then you see her aunt laugh at her, and then her face falls apart into flames, and then her entire body becomes encased by flames. So I take that as her aunt is taking over her body, and her soul is going into hell. Okay.
I'll go along for that. It was one of those ones where it's like the most like I don't want to say ethereal, but like just kind of like heady kill of just is this a kill or is it more of just kind of an I don't know.
It's a consuming.
Sure, yeah. Like that one was just a little bit more tough to follow. Yeah. Whereas like Fantasies, you don't even really see Fantasy die. Fantasy just kind of gives up.
Yeah. She's exhausted.
Well, yeah, you can't blame her. She just had, God. Again, if you haven't seen this movie, it's so hard to talk about everything without you just knowing what we're talking about.
Well, she saw all of her friends die.
She saw all of her friends die. She also saw an evil painting of the cat that could laugh at her get kicked by Kung Fu that started throwing up blood everywhere. So much so that the house, I've mentioned this earlier, house started filling up like a pool, like very deep. The house then somehow strips her clothes off when she goes into the blood pool.
That prof is the one that went into the blood pool.
That's right, prof went in the blood pool. So Fantasy survived on like the board thing, and then when she finally sees Gorgeous, who is her aunt, on the stairs, she's like, "Oh, it's my friend, aunt, whatever. I'm just gonna put my head in your lap. Fuck it all." And that's kind of what happened to Fantasy. At least how I took it. It's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
She's being motherly. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Like, anything is better than what I just saw, so.
Yeah, like, I'll take creepy motherly who's taking her boobs out for some reason.
Well, she pulled her shirt down. Fantasy did.
Oh, Fantasy pulled her shirt down. I thought she pulled her shirt down. I'm like, what are you doing? What is happening?
No.
Okay, that makes so like when she's like trying to climb
Yeah,
up the
no,
stairs, she
she-
just claws at it. That makes more
She
sense.
used it to hoist herself up, yeah.
That makes much more sense. I'm just like, what? Why are you doing this now? Like, I am so confused. Okay, thank you. But yeah, so like that one just kind of made sense. Like, it's my friend. I'm smart enough to know that it's probably not my friend, but she's being nice. Fuck it. And there goes Fantasy. But either way, like, I honestly thought for a moment, just a moment, she was gonna make it.
Because everyone else was gone. And they made the comment that they thought they had won when Kung Fu punched the cat photo. For some reason.
Yeah. How optimistic can you be? We won. The whole house is filling up with blood and we can't leave. But we did it.
Yeah.
We're drowning. We did it.
Yeah, I didn't really think she would I mean, I hoped she would survive just because give the girl a break, for God's sake. But yeah, I figured she would be a victim of her name and die by the fantasy.
Oh, yeah, that works. But it was just kind of like one of those, like, oh, well, fuck. Sorry, dude.
Yeah, after all that, like,
This house
damn.
is really good at eating unwed girls.
Yeah, and I also kind of like the house is really good at it, but it also kind of seemed like, yep, just going about my business. Gonna eat this one, gonna eat that one. These are fighting back. Hey, stop that. Stop that. Stop fighting back. The house just kind of gets really
Dude,
frustrated.
I just freaking love the aunt's victory dance. When she's just happy and she's kind of going around, hopping around, and she does a little dance with the skeleton.
And then the
Oh,
cat.
yeah.
Meow, 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 meow,
Yeah.
meow, 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 meow.
Yeah. Oh, she hasn't eaten in a long time.
Yeah,
Like,
she's
this
having a-
is great.
She's having a great time.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the aunt. I feel like we need to mention her a little bit before we start moving on to other stuff. The aunt creeped the fuck out of me. It's really the only thing in the movie that actually kind of gives me the...
Yeah.
And it was all down to one scene, which I totally saw it coming. I knew she was going to break the fourth wall. The second she enters the frame, like, she's going to look right at us. I know she's going to look right at us.
oh, right.
And she
Up
just
on the
kind of,
raptor,
she's
you
looking
mean?
at the girl. Yeah, she's so all the girls are in the kitchen, and the aunt walks into the refrigerator, as one does, and then finds herself on the second floor, as one does, and then she's just kind of creepily looking at her head, just pokes in the frame, facing away from camera, and I'm just sitting there going, like, she's gonna look right at us. I know it's coming, and she just slowly turns and looks dead in the camera,
And smiles.
and for some reason, the hairs on my neck just stood up. I'm like, oh, I don't like it.
Oh,
I don't know why,
such
but
a
I don't
great
like
moment.
it. It's a
Such a great moment. Ugh.
It's
Especially-
a great moment of these girls are screwed.
Yeah, they have no idea how fucked they are, and it's just like, as much as like the more I'm talking about it, the more I'm liking the movie, as I kind of figured I would. Like I said, as I'm watching, like if I was in a different mood, I bet I'd love this movie, and I just did not want to watch it last night for whatever fucking reason.
Well, and see, for me, it was like the opposite of your scenario. I wasn't really wanting to watch the movie. I wasn't really in a mood to watch movies, and this just turned me around almost immediately. I was like, this is great. And then that scene happens where she backtracks into the refrigerator and then looks at us.
And
I was
Fantasy's like,
taken.
What the fuck just happened? She just went to the refrigerator.
Oh,
she did
Fantasy.
it. Fantasy, you're out of your mind.
There's also the scene where the aunt opens her mouth a little bit to show the eyeball for Mac, I think.
Oh yeah, after she ate Mac.
Yeah.
And then that
Fantasy's
chewing
again,
noise
like,
and-
why is no one else seeing this?
Dude, she's got an eye in her mouth. But what I was gonna say really quick was that I watch more horror movies than a lot of people that I know. I can't say more than a lot, like most, because I have a kid. I don't have that much time. But to have a moment in any horror movie that legitimately makes you go, ugh, it's just like round of applause. Well done. Well done, movie from the 70s. You don't need my praise at all. But still.
1977. It was a good year for movies.
Yeah.
I think it's worth mentioning, especially when it comes to the aunt, I think it's worth mentioning just the way this movie is able to bounce between tone so playfully. I think that's another key thing that won me over in this. Just the scenes like with the aunt that really like made you shudder and go, ugh. But then that soundtrack that keeps hitting, the sentimental music, the soft focus, and the slapstick. I don't know, like
No.
it really shined when the aunt showed up for me.
Oh yeah. The aunt kind of steals the whole movie, in my opinion.
I freaking love her look.
Yeah.
With the green dress, the white bob, those sunglasses. It just
Yeah, she kind of steals the whole show.
I would love to cosplay as her, but I would not look right.
I'm not sure there's a lot of people who can pull off her look, but she looked great. But moving kind of like taking a step out of the movie itself for a moment and kind of talking about like what the movie was not necessarily trying to say, but kind of what it was saying. It came out in the 70s, which is roughly, what was it, 33 years after the bombs were dropped?
Yeah.
Yeah, 33 years. So that's enough of like a generation. That's an entire generation of people who had to grow up never having really ever experienced war, at least to that magnitude, which hopefully we never will again. Yeah. But there was something kind of interesting about this movie that had a character that had lost somebody to that war, and then had a whole bunch of other kids who just like, oh yeah, there's a war or something a long time ago. And it's like, it's not that long. Yeah. And having those two different personalities in this one movie, and then knowing like from behind the scenes that it was written from two different people who both had those same different things, it really kind of, it shaped the movie into something a lot more than just this goofy slapstick horror movie, into something that like, oh, there's some legitimate teeth in here. And it never goes too far with it. It never really shoves anything super messagey down your throat. But it does remind me, like, as well as anything could, like, oh yeah, Toho made this movie. The same people who did Godzilla. It's like, yeah, when these guys want to do a message, they know how.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I saw that in the beginning when Toho showed up, and I was like, oh, they did this? Oh, I see. And then I was kind of on alert for those elements that you're mentioning. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, the generational thing, the message cleverly hidden in there.
Well, and the message, from what I understood it, was very much like the generational divide. Like, you have the older generation who's just kind of mad. And then the younger generation is just like, oh my God, it's all wonderful in the future, and we're so cute and loving, and everything's great. And just, essentially, it's just like the older generation literally eating the young to stay alive.
Yeah.
And that's very apt for now, but it just kind of seems to be a classic trope of life, and it was just super amplified with the anger and resentment after World War II in this film.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things where if you don't know any of that going in, like you didn't know the story, how it was written, you didn't know who made it, anything like that, you still have a very good, one of the best slapstick, crazy, banana balls horror movie. But knowing that and having that extra like layer to it makes it that much more special. And that's why I think like people have stuck with it for so long. Because you go back to the 70s, especially Japanese horror, Korean horror, like any of those sort of like movies, there's thousands of them that are just crazy and whatever. But they don't all have something important to say. Yeah.
And especially because the end is great with...
Banana Man?
Well, no, the very, very end. When the girlfriend, because I don't remember what her name was at all, the scarf woman, she wants to explain things to Gorgeous to get her to be okay with her being the new mom. And she doesn't know that Gorgeous is gone and that she has been consumed by her aunt. So then you see them with each other, and the aunt is still a younger generation. And she's just flowy and wistful and hopeful and be like, it's going to be all okay. And you can just see that's like a liberal thing.
Yeah.
And this freaking Gorgeous is gonna eat her. She's gonna be like, oh, it's not going to be okay. You have no idea how not okay it's about to be.
And I thought it was interesting, just based off of what we were saying, how the girlfriend coming and showing up at the place and basically burning away, kind of symbolizing that whole generational gap and the war from the past. It was very cool that they chose to end it that way, serving into their message.
It's like the older generation is saying, I'm angry, I'm going to burn it all to the ground. It's climate change.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's much better than the joke I was going to make. I'm very glad you got there before me, because I'd be very upset with myself right now. All right, so let's... I think we've kind of covered pretty much everything that we can, at least as far as diving into a movie goes. And with
I would just like to say that the design of this movie is... top notch.
You're so good at jumping into what exactly I was going to lead into.
Oh.
I was going to say, we've covered as much as we can. Let's talk about our favorite things in the movie. Just things that we enjoyed.
Okay,
So, no, I love that we're always in the same wavelength. That actually cracks me up.
How adorable.
So let's talk. So tell us about the design.
It's so bonkers. Like how everyone always talked up Suspiria to me.
Right.
If I had to choose a movie that I liked the design more of, I would choose this one. Because I just love the imagery. I love the rooms. I like the use of flowers, like gigantic flower wallpaper. And then a different room where it's all this, like, dead flowers covered in a white layer of dust. And when you go to Gorgeous's house, all you see is a patio that's super obviously on a sound stage. And this is totally romantic backdrop of a sunset on a super romantic porch, and it's
a huge ass fan.
Oh my god, it's
and
gorgeous
they shoot it
for gorgeous.
Yeah.
And they also shoot it like in front of that glass window pane thing.
Yeah.
So then it like sparkles as you're going panning back and forth, and so cool.
And the sky replacement that is totally unnecessary, but it gives it this weird surrealistic feel throughout the entire film.
Like when they stop at the bus stop or the train stop and there's a fake sky in front of the real sky, and they're the same sky.
The same sky. And it's one of those things where, like, I'm not Japanese. I've never been to China. I didn't do very much Japanese research.
You've been to China?
Or, sorry, Japan. I've never been to Japan. I'm not anyone who would ever say that I am well-versed in Japanese culture. So there's all these things in this movie that I don't get. I don't get the symbolism of watermelons. I don't get why there's a bear in the noodle shop. I don't really get why the guy turns into bananas, but I'm sure there was a reason. And why is she eating and also bringing life to goldfish? Like, there are all these very specific things that I feel like meant something.
Yeah.
And even though I don't understand it, I adore it.
The thing that I if you're done, I don't mean to step on you.
No.
Okay.
Now that you're finally done, jeez.
Yeah. Well, I always feel like I like to move on, but I don't want to interrupt. So the thing that I would have talked about, just something that I just loved in the movie, even when I'm just like, man, I don't want to watch this thing right now. Just being a grumpy bitch. I love the violence. And, like, there's something about, like, whenever I sit down for a horror movie, pretty much any and all horror movies, you expect some level of violence.
Yeah.
It just kind of comes with the genre. Not always, but most of the time. In this one, especially Japanese horror in general, like, violence, you never know what the fuck you're going to get. It can be anything. And this one, it really went for that, like, super over-the-top, so violent that it's not.
And
like,
each death was different.
Yeah, totally different. It wasn't like if you watch, say, the greatest horror franchise of all time, Friday the 13th, you know everyone's going to get bludgeoned to death pretty much with something. Either sharp object, dull object, tree, something is going to smash and physically harm their body.
Yeah.
This one, you had no fucking clue. Like, at any time, you had no idea which way it was coming, but it's always going to be violent, and it's usually, with the exception of Melody, pretty quick.
Yeah, and
I mean,
it's almost like a ride.
Died pretty intensely.
Oh, she did, yeah.
She died fighting.
Yeah, well,
she even, after she got dismembered, her legs still kept fighting.
Legs just kept going. But, like, okay, so Melody and Kung Fu kind of get really torn up. But everybody else, like, when they finally do kick the bucket, it's just like, you're done. And I kind of appreciate that. I mean, even Sweet kind of, well...
Sweet got... kind of got bludgeoned to death.
She got mattressed to death.
Which is apparently another fear of that guy's daughter. Was
getting crushed by mattresses?
Yeah.
The guy's daughter's an idiot.
She was like 9.
Well, now let's unpack that, because a lot of mattresses, there's suffocation fear in there. I can get it.
They're not gonna come flying at you.
Okay, well,
don't
I mean, if a
remember
bed,
what it was like to be
if
afraid
like
as a
6
child.
mattresses were flying at you,
I'm still afraid like a child. Sure. Yes, I get what you're saying. Yes, mattresses flying at you would be scary if it were to happen. It's not going to happen. You're fine.
But also the mattresses were like making her like remove her clothes too. Like there was a lot of things in there that were like, okay, that would actually freak me out.
Sure. But honestly, the scariest thing beyond the mother's look has got to be that fucking cat.
Nah.
That cat is creepy
You
as
just
shit.
don't like cats.
No, cats are horrible. Sorry, John. I'm not saying John's cats are horrible. John's cats are actually pretty nice. I'll give him that.
Yeah, no, they're nice until until they're not.
John's cats give Corin unrealistic expectations of other cats.
Yes.
Cat.
That cat's gonna bap you, and it's not declawed, honey.
Yeah. Whew. You're going to feel it.
I had to pull Corin away from a cat at my friend's house in Minnesota. I'm like, that cat is ready to hurt you.
Yeah, there are some cats that'll defend themselves.
Push it down like you can with Dave.
Now, here's the thing, is that cat might scratch him. The cat in this movie would have destroyed him.
He would have closed the door.
Yeah, those green eyes would have glowed, and then like Corin would have started flying away.
Yeah.
Like a balloon or something, and turned into a balloon or something.
Or all
something
balloons would have
weirdly
just come
magical.
and killed him and taken his clothes off for some reason.
6
I'm
mattresses.
sure there's some thing about the sexualization of schoolgirls.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely.
Because that's been a problem in Japan for a long time.
And will be for a long time. But yeah, so John, what about you? What was something that you really enjoyed about the movie? And then we'll move into quotes.
I think for me the biggest thing is just how up and down the movie is, and I'm talking in a very broad sense of just how one moment the movie's doing this soft focus, gentle music, wistful looks, and then suddenly it becomes this other thing, like stop motion slapstick animation as the guy's going down the hill, sliding down the hill and being like what, and then the visual trickery that we've mentioned before with the having the backdrop be like a picture that they're in front of at the bus stop, and then you see the real backdrop, which is also kind of fake, and the levels of visual trickery, playfulness, I really enjoyed. And there's one at the very beginning of the movie where it's like a picture in like it's a box frame, and the girl's like moving around in there, and then she goes to the left a little bit, screen left, and then the rest of the frame catches up, and it was such an interesting visual touch that paid off throughout the rest of the movie for me. Like just the way the filmmaking, the literal filmmaking of it played with the audience as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of like legit like film editing and like post mastery in this thing that's just incredible. Especially given the time. But even like now to do that stuff without just using computers would be a fucking nightmare.
I have no idea how you make someone dissolve piece by piece on actual film.
That's my response.
The idea that people had to color things in frame by frame melts my brain just thinking about it.
Oh, well, even the piano having melody in like the top-down view of melody in the piano, with just the coloring in the red and having that wobble on the frame, like the film stock. It's such a very interesting thing to look at and observe in the context of the movie. I don't know, it's just so cool.
Totally nuts.
The sort of thing people like, just use a filter.
Fix it in post. Let's move into quotes. Quotes. Mine is, as I've said many times throughout this thing, is when Mr. Togo confronts the watermelon man, and then he asks, "Do you like watermelons?" And he runs away saying, "No, bananas, 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 bananas." Would not have been my quote if he did not then turn into a pile of bananas. But I believe that's where I finally went, what the fuck?
You made it through pretty much the entire movie.
Yeah, going like, this is weird. What is happening? I can't believe this is happening. How is this still happening? It wasn't until the man turned into a pile of bananas, and I'm like, I'm at a loss. Totally at a loss. Chewie, what about you? What's your quote?
Any cat can open a door. Only a witch cat can close it.
That's a good one.
I don't think that's an exact quote, but that's pretty much.
That's pretty close,
it comes
actually.
Back several times, and they're like, "Oh, that cat closed the door.
You're gonna
witch
die.
cat, witch cat, witch cat, witch, witch, witch."
And John?
The introduction to Kung Fu, where they're like, "You're so good at it," and she just hits the football or the ball that's being thrown at them away. And it was just such a quick moment, and then we're just on to the next thing in this movie. I straight up laughed out loud.
Yeah, that was almost every Kung Fu moment is fantastic. I love Kung Fu. It's my favorite part of the movie.
I wish I could
But
be
she
as
was so-
confident as Kung Fu.
I think everyone wishes they'd be as confident as Kung Fu.
It was just she was so nonchalant about it. Like, I'm just gonna knock that away. Cool. I'm
Yep.
like, you're great. You're the greatest character I've seen.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say let's do a review system, but I really don't even know how to review this movie. I've really... Review system this week will be...
I think this movie's like a plum. A pile of plums.
Sure.
It's kind of sour, but also sweet.
Great. John, how would you review this movie? That's really what I'm doing this time. I'm not even giving you any sort of fucking category, because this movie doesn't follow any sort of fucking category. How would you review it? Just come up with something. What you got?
Flaming cauliflower on a graham cracker.
Okay.
What? That's
Flaming cauliflower on a graham cracker.
It's descriptive.
It's very descriptive.
Like this movie. This movie is visually descriptive. And
It's like something a vegan would try to tell me to eat.
Did you try our flamed cauliflower
On a graham
cracker?
No.
Yeah.
you
No.
really
I
haven't
went full
lived until you've had
Venture Brothers
cauliflower.
Yeah. I would describe this movie. Ooh, I've got a few, and I'm trying to think of the best one. I would describe this movie as a hard-boiled egg in your carton of fresh eggs. No idea how it got there.
How did you get boiled and no one else did?
How the fuck is this thing hard-boiled in my fresh box of eggs? What happened?
That chicken had a flaming anus. It's a flaming hot chicken. You get hard-boiled eggs out of it.
Yeah, that's
But also
my,
icy cold
my review.
because you have to chill it.
Yeah, of course. I'm not backing down. This is definitely my review. I like it. So now on to our newest segment on After the Hype. Would you recommend? Would you recommend it? I'm pretty sure I got the answer from just talking to you guys over the last 2 hours or hour or however long we've been talking. It's pretty obvious, pretty unanimous across the board. Of course, I recommend it. Of course.
Oh, yes.
I did not enjoy watching it at all. I was pretty upset at the end of it. I had to watch something just to kind of like cleanse my palate because I was in such a bad mood after it. I can't wait to watch it again. I really look forward to it. I absolutely fucking recommend it.
I wonder what I'd pair it with.
What would you pair it with?
Yeah, like if I recommended this movie to a person, I feel like I would need to tell them to do a double feature.
Doomsday.
Oh my god. We need to do that movie. I need to rewatch that movie. In the post Me Too era, how does that movie stand up?
Oi. John, you were saying you would recommend as well?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And definitely not tell them anything about it.
Yeah. That's really the only way you should go into this thing.
And
Unless,
also,
of course, you want to give them the analogy of, yeah, it's kind of like a hard-boiled egg in your carton of fresh eggs.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would also recommend watching it with people, maybe in a theater setting if you can. I think if maybe we had watched it together, that would have been interesting. Like, I think this needs a communal watching experience as well. But if you can't, get the DVD or the Criterion. But yeah, I recommend it with friends.
Let's move on to plugs. We'll try to do these as quick as we can. We've already been talking for a long time.
I'm tired.
I am super tired. It's late out here in Burbank. So my plugs are going to be pretty simplified these days because I feel like I only need to give one plug, and that is athpod.com. Be sure to go check out athpod.com. All of our shows are on there. All of our articles are on there. If you are into pop culture in any way, which way, form, whatever you got, we have something for you. I guarantee it. And it's always new, and it comes out every day, except for the weekends because we have lives. And we have lives. It's not the weekends because we're usually recording the shit you listen to throughout the rest of the week. But still.
Pretty much, yeah. Work-life hobby balance? What?
Yeah. No. So yes, I would highly recommend just going to athpod.com. Please check out everything we got. I know you'll love it. And then really quick, moving on into the rest of the year for the most part on ATH. We have episode 300 coming up. We made it to episode 300.
Woo!
Can you guess what movie we will cover for episode 300?
No.
Would it be 300?
300?
Oh, yeah.
You fucking bet it will. Never covered 300 on this show. I cannot think of a better time to cover 300. I am so excited to rewatch that movie, full of a whole bunch of people of like, holy shit, you'll be famous later. And then around 300, we have 6 more weeks until Star Wars. Episode 9 coming out. Rise of the Skywalker, and we figured it's about time to clean up all of those other Star Wars movies we haven't officially reviewed and After the Hype. So 6 weeks of Star Wars movies. We're doing the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, and we've already done episodes on the rest of them that you can go back and listen to. And that's all the ATH plugs coming up. Be sure to look out for all of that. I'm very excited for all 7 of those movies I just told you, because my God, it's going to be a lot of fun. John, what are you plugging?
Other than Demon Days, which is on athpod.com, not much else. I mean, I'm living and breathing athpod.com, so definitely recommend checking that site out. Follow us on the socials as well.
Yes, please. Sometimes we do stuff on
Yeah.
Chewie?
Plug?
Yep.
Watch Superstore on NBC Thursday nights.
At what time? I'm kidding. I know you don't know.
7, 8 Central?
I honestly have no idea.
I don't know. We don't have normal TV. We're millennials. We just stream.
We cut that cord fucking like 10 years
I've
ago.
only had cable for a year and a half when it was illegally in my apartment in Chicago.
You mean-
until Comcast came and changed it.
Comcast came and went, stop stealing our cable.
And I went, but I liked it. I was really into Meerkat Manor.
Are you willing to pay for it?
No.
Well, then we're taking it.
Well, maybe. Meerkat Manor was a fun show.
I loved Meerkat Manor.
Never seen an episode.
Oh,
It was
and
it was the best form of reality TV. There was drama, there was family dynamics, meerkats died, there was a matriarch, the woman was in charge.
I was about to say
yeah.
American Ninja Warrior has all those things, but it definitely doesn't have dying meerkats.
Man, there's been so much college time just spent, instead of studying, watching either Meerkat Manor or anything on the Food Network.
I never got into the Food Network. It's never did anything for me. As soon as I turned on,
I was
I'm
very
hungry
hungry as a college student.
Yeah. All right. I think
I'm in college. I can't afford that.
yeah, I couldn't do that. I'd just be mad. I'd just sit there.
What's a brisket? Oh, that looks really delicious.
I'm enjoying my ramen.
Give myself diabetes.
I'm gonna put a
Thank you
glaze
much.
over the
Not
ramen.
diabetes, scurvy.
Sorry, scurvy. That makes much more sense than diabetes.
There's not enough sugar in it to give you. It's
not with that
mostly
attitude.
salt.
I think we've said everything we possibly can say today. I'm just going to say goodbye. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Have a great night.
Bye.
See you later, bozos.